Welcome everyone to Zephyr's Adjusted for Risk podcast. We are on location at the Wealth Management Edge Conference. It's been a fantastic start to the conference, a lot of great content, conversations, insights, and we're just getting started. You know, the industry, you got to be living under the rock if you haven't heard the trends about AI, and it's really captivating markets, the industry, capturing headlines, and it's a very important topic and one here at the conference. Well, I have on the perfect guest to talk about all things AI and if financial advisors are really thinking about it correctly or they're jumping too far in advance. But first, this episode is sponsored by the award-winning Zephyr, which helps investment professionals make more informed investment decisions on behalf of their clients. All right, enough from me. I'm going to bring on the star of the show, Jim Dickson. Jim is the CEO of Elevation Point. Jim, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's an honor to have you on. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and Elevation Point?
Yeah, so I'm the CEO and founder of Elevation Point. I've been in this great business for 30 years now. Gosh, I never thought I'd say those words. Elevation Point, we're minority investors, and we help both breakaway firms as well as existing RIAs, accelerate and sort of build a platform so they can build their firm their way, kind of like a custom home for RIAs.
I love it. The custom homes for RIAs, fantastic way of putting it. I started talking about AI, and you told me, in some notes that a lot of financial advisors, they don't really do the prep work. They like to get straight to talking about AI and what it can do, but they don't necessarily do the unglamorous work.
Yeah.
What is the unglamorous work? What is it, and maybe what's it look like, and why don't financial advisors like to do that part?
Well, because it's hard and it's expensive, right? And those are two words that most of us, whether you're an advisor or not, like to avoid. But look, I think it comes down to data. And when I think about AI, I think about data. And if you don't have your data organized, you don't have your data codified, you don't have it in a way which you can access it, I just not sure the bang for the buck is really there for AI, right? And so at Elevation Point, we've really spent a lot of time in conjunction with our partners at MileMarker building that data warehouse and building that data lake, getting the data right, then we can get to AI. But I see this, a lot of people like, use AI. Yeah, I have a note taker. That's not AI, that's a note taker, right? And so being able to do that is incredibly important. And I think a lot of people skip that step.
No, it is. It's like talking about a custom home.
Yeah.
You can't build that home without a foundation,
Mm-mm.
right? And it's amazing how many conversations I have about AI. It's about what AI can do, what AI can help us with, but they forget all the work.
Yeah.
So when you talk about like a centralized data warehouse, what does that look like?
So we have a belief that the future of business, but particularly wealth management, a lot of the workflows that have been in these practices that are either manual or exist in the CRM are going to move to the data layer and they're going to become agentic. And for us as an investor, it means a better client experience, and it also means a more profitable business, because a lot of those things that we were doing manually were either slow and expensive, or we might not need a person to do it all. If we get the data right and we get it clean and we get it organized, an agent can come in and do a lot of those manual tasks and move it forward, and we're not kind of updating a CRM, moving it forward, waiting on somebody else to do it, moving it forward. It just kind of flows through there. And the other thing I think about is like, what a great employee. Works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never calls in sick, right?
Yeah,
all those things are really
bad
good.
Mouth.
Right,
He doesn't
exactly.
have a negative attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you talk about data and how important it is, but one of the biggest issues with data is you got data from custodians, all the different layers of data you're getting it from. Is that the biggest challenge to building that data warehouse, is just aggregating it?
That's a great question. No, I don't think it is. I think it is hard, but the harder part, in my opinion, also the coolest part, is what these people, what they call these MCP layers, right? And an MCP layer is just a plugin. So if you think about ever travel to Europe and you can't plug, you got to change the plugin. Yeah. An MCP layer just allows all the plugins to work, right? And so for us, we have a very flexible tech stack, because if you think about our business, one of our partner firms, Custom Home, is very different from another firm's Custom Home. So they have a different tech stack, but yet we've got to make it in an integrated flexible, customizable way. And so that MCP layer that allows you to plug in, your reporting tool, whatever it may be, that's really, I think, where the magic happens, and allows you to have that flexibility to sort of change things out. Because, I feel like today when we make a decision on technology, 6 months later, it may be extinct, right? There's a new, it's coming so fast that I think that flexibility and that customizability at that MCP layer is what's really starting to get me excited.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And it's those type of things that advisors, or any firm, they have to have those conversations first, right?
And by the way, like, just full disclosure, 120 days ago, I didn't know what MCP was. I could probably spell it, but I didn't know what it meant, right? And so I think it's moving pretty fast, and that's a lot of things where advisors, could benefit from a partner like Elevation Point, because we build that infrastructure that they can then use to customize their custom home versus sort of trying to do it all themselves, because it's just really, really hard.
Well, and you mentioned at the beginning it's hard and it costs a lot.
Yeah.
So to do that, that's why financial advisors outsource a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, is to get help doing that. And it's moving so fast. Like, we'll be here, might have the same conversation next year, and we might have to learn new terms.
100%, yes.
It's keeping us on our toes.
100%.
Keeping us on our toes. So you talked about the agentic workforce. What, when you think of a workflow, whether it's compliance, customer service, how do you think, can you give us an idea of how AI can, make that more efficient?
Yeah, so I think the two for financial advisors, right? We're at a financial advisor conference here, and I think the two things our advisors have asked for the most is, hey, can you help me do client review prep and customization, and can you help me do follow-up? And so having an agent that can look through their financial plan, their portfolio, their tax returns, and pull together a really curated, high-end, customized way. Now listen, I think the last mile will always exist with the financial advisor. I want to be really, really clear about that.
Yeah.
But it's like in football, maybe it gets it down to the 10-yard line, and then the advisor steps in and takes over. It saves so much time, it saves so much, and there's maybe some things you don't think of, and then AI is so smart that it gets to know the client, and it customizes, and it gets to know the advisor, and it just keeps building and compounding on one another. And I think that review and that experience gets really well, because I think the holy grail in our business is customization at scale. And I think the only chance we have to do it is if we get our data layer right and we build in an agentic model that really gets to know the advisors and the customer, and then do that at scale.
No, you're exactly right. I've heard that a lot of times about the customization at scale.
It's hard.
Hard, but then the firms that do it, they're going to separate themselves and make it work. So do you think AI, though, are you afraid that maybe advisors might leverage AI or rely on AI too much and kind of forget that the most important part and the reason why we got into this industry is relationships?
No, I don't think so. At least not the good ones. One thing that AI I don't think will ever have, and some people argue with me, but I'm going to stick on this, is empathy. I think the great advisors are empathetic human beings that really understand clients. And, at the end of the day, when major life events happen, divorce, death, those big moments, they don't want to talk to AI, they want to talk to a human being. And I don't think that's ever going to change. Now, I think that AI can help that human being be even more valuable, but it's not going to replace them, in my opinion.
No, I completely agree. And the ones that remember, have that emotional attachment, their relationship, they're going to win.
They're going to win.
They're going to win at the end, because AI, I keep going back to robo-advisors. Robo-advisors were supposed to take over, right? And now, where's robo-advisors?
Yeah.
And also, when you talked about it, a crisis, whether it's a divorce or death in the family, a market correction, that's when those relationships...
Got old hands.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't had a market correction, so everything looks good.
I know.
Right now, everything is... Right. So, what are the biggest obstacles you think you mentioned data, financial advisors might face when implementing?
I think it's interesting. Like, if you watch some of the large corporations that are maybe a little ahead of what I'd call the small and medium business crowd, which is what I would really call most financial advisory businesses, I think it's cost. I think one of the things that's coming back right now is these token costs are really, really expensive, because I think everybody had this thought that they just run AI and it would run kind of like maybe you did on ChatGPT or whatever when you put in question after question. But when it's building these workflows and doing these works, it's not doing them for free, and there's only so much compute and data that it can have. And so I know for us, we've had to build in a lot of codification, we've had to build in a lot of guardrails to just say, okay, you've hit your limit, shut it down. Because I think a lot of large corporations have been surprised. We're like, oh my goodness, this quarter we had a, really large number hit our P&L because of that cost of that. And so I think we're going to have to figure out how to use it smart. And today maybe it's just like throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. It's the stage we're in, and that can be really, really expensive. And if you don't watch that, I think you can get in trouble.
Yeah. Do you think that we're misusing AI right now, or we're just using it too simply, like you said, a chatbot, or just put in a basic prompt, give me the title of this article?
So listen, I think that's okay. We've really adopted at Elevation Point AI. We want to be very forward-leaning to it, and we've got about 60 people across our organization, and everybody comes at it at a different place. And so, we needed everybody to be comfortable in the beginning, and if they wanted to use it like that and get comfortable, and then we just build from that, right? We build into that. We think about drop-down files. We start to take the next step. Yeah. But I think that a logical training program, if you just throw somebody that's not comfortable into the deep end, they'll just never use the tool, right? And so there is a progression, and that whole chatbot, Google, if you will, of AI is, within your own environment. It's a good place to start. It's not where you end, and it's not maybe great value, but it gets people's toe in the water, which we think is important.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a firm believer. It's like investing in alternatives or something. Do you want to go, or crypto?
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead in and buy?
Right. Yeah.
Take it slow.
Really
Take
slow.
it slow.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of talk in the industry about a lack of talent, younger talent, next gen, these older financial advisors struggling with succession planning. What are we going to do? Do you feel that's still an issue with, a lack of talent or younger financial advisors?
No, I'm sorry, you're going to get me on my soapbox here.
I love it.
You probably set me up.
Go on.
I think the best days of financial advisors are in front of us. Listen, there's something happening right now in our industry that I think we've all got to take notice to. Traditionally, coming out of universities, a lot of the quote unquote brighter students, they wanted to go in investment banking, they wanted to be a McKinsey consultant, they maybe wanted to go to work at Deloitte. Those are the places where AI is taking a lot of those entry-level analyst jobs. And so I believe it passionately, that as an industry, we have a chance to put our flag up really high to those really talented individuals and say, wealth management is the place that you should be, because you can have a great life, you can build a wonderful equity within your business, you can do good for people, and that next generation in FinServe, which is an organization here at this conference that does amazing things, they have a mentorship program. I think we've got an opportunity. Traditionally, sort of the path into our business has become like the CFP, which I think is okay. I challenge everybody to broaden that up, and let's see if we can't get the best and brightest into the industry, because they're trying to figure out what to do. Investment banking isn't hiring as much, consulting's not hiring as much. A lot of those quote jobs, AI is kind of changing. So I think we've got an opportunity. We need strong mentorship. We've got to teach them. We've got to give them an on-ramp into the business besides a phone book and say, go cold call 1,000 people. But if we get that right, I think the future could be really bright, because there's a lot of talent out there, and we're talking about AI. Those guys, young men and women, they know how to use AI. They're very comfortable with it. We just got to teach them how to deal with the client, those life situations.
The relationship. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that. I agree. I feel as if now, if you're a younger, straight out of college, perfect time to get into wealth management. Just go do some relationship building with financial advisors, because we're getting older. The generation.
I think the thing we've got to all figure out is the apprenticeship model, right? If I look at great law firms, maybe great CPA firms, how they bring somebody in, they give them a clear path, they kind of rotate them around, let them see a couple things. That, if we get that right, and we will, I think the best firms will, future's bright. I think it's really, really bright.
What's Elevation Point doing? You talked about, the younger generation, the next gen advisor, how well they're really good with AI, and they can adapt to AI probably quicker than we can. They can understand the terms. What's Elevation Point doing? What's it look like at Elevation Point for those next gen advisors and incorporate the training?
We do, right? We've got a home office team, but we invest, minority 20%, 30% in these firms. So we're part owners, and our job is to accelerate and help them grow. And so what I've sort of learned over doing this for a few years now is putting together study groups around different parts of the organization and letting the cross-pollination of different partner firms throughout the country. I think we have investments in 19 17 states now that come together that are really interested in things, and one of the things that's so cool about that is I think about our AI initiative, and there's probably 4 or 5 or 6 kids, and I'm going to call them kids, that are leading that have just risen way up the ranks and taken a leadership role that they would have never had that if we wouldn't have sort of brought it out, right? And it also is kind of cool, right? Because you see somebody's been doing this for 30 or 40 years. You see some kid that's 2 years out of college, and they're working together, and they need each other, right? And so no matter if it's inorganic growth, organic growth, if it's, that study groups and bringing people together and some in person as well as a lot of Zoom, it's like, hey, go try stuff, go fail, then let's come back and talk about our failures. We'll get better, we'll keep going. That's the environment of greatness, in my opinion, that we try to provide at Elevation Point.
Fantastic, and why conferences like this are so important.
So many good ideas.
Yeah, it really is. All the great conversations, whether it's on a panel or just in the exhibit hall, all the great conversations. So last question. Yeah. Can you provide any tips, financial advisors, they might be on the fence at AI, they want to do AI, but do you provide any tips about before you run and sprint, what do you need to do to get there?
So this is going to sound maybe a little odd, but this is what I did. So a year ago, I could spell AI and that was about it, right? But what I would say to you was I committed 1 hour a day, whether it was a podcast, whether it was reading, whether it was research, whether it was playing around in Claude, which is the one that I use. And I just got more knowledgeable, and then I got a little more knowledgeable, and then I started to meet people. It's like the white Lexus that you think about buying, and then all of a sudden you see nothing but white Lexuses. Yeah. I feel like it's the same way. And so for what I've challenged my team to do is what I did myself. It's like find an hour a day, 5 days a week, that you just spend getting smarter on it. And what you'll do is you'll start finding, very selfishly, all these use cases that it makes your life and your work better. And all of a sudden you're like, I'm not a D student anymore, I'm a B student, I'm not an A student, I'm not a data engineer, but I think it's just doing that. It's that consistent reps and being comfortable not knowing and just learning and getting more comfortable. That's what I did. I'm now a B- student, but I used to be a lot worse, and I feel like I can have conversations with people that really understand it and bring the business side to the AI conversation and not just the tech side.
I love it, Jim. I think that's fantastic. I'm probably still at a D, kind of like in college. Yeah. just barely getting through. D's get degrees, right?
That's right, amen, yes.
But what I feel interesting is AI can be very unique. You use AI differently than I do, right? I've looked into it potentially where I wake up, I get an alert of what's going on in the market, so I can write a quick, post on it. Yeah. Right, where I don't have to spend 2 hours figuring out what happened.
Yes.
And use cases out there, like you said,
crazy.
Are crazy.
It's fun, really, to be honest.
And I like your point of just testing it. Get on there an hour a day. Just go play around with it. See what it can do.
That's right. How you do. There's some great podcasts out there that really smart people. And all of a sudden, I was listening to one. Claude rolled out Claude for financial services, right? Yeah. And so I watched a podcast on it. And I walked away with about 10 ideas, right? Yeah. Now, I don't know how to do any of them yet, but I'll figure it out. And I think that's what we have to do. We just have to get uncomfortable, or we're going to get left behind. If we're really honest, I think that's a fear a lot of us, need to sort of deal with.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And you might be slow to it, but at least start learning, because like you said, you'll get left behind. And this younger generation of clients, guess what they're going to do with financial advisors? How are you using AI?
100%.
And if you say, I'm not, well,
you're in trouble.
Jim, fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for coming on. Where can our audience get more information about Elevation Point?
Really simply, www.elevationpoint.com. Come to our website. It talks about what we're doing, what we're up to, and if we can be helpful, we'd love to be.
Awesome, Jim. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Zephyr's Adjusted for Risk podcast. You can watch all of our other episodes on the Zephyr YouTube channel, Spotify, and wherever else you catch your podcasts. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your week.